It's 6 o'clock, and I welcome you to the March 14th meeting of the governing body. I call this meeting to order. If you give your attention to Councilwoman Nager, who will provide the invocation, stand as you are able, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would invite everyone to just join me in an attitude of meditation as we focus on what we are to accomplish this meeting and for our city. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this change of seasons, for this leap forward in time, and help it to bring attention to the fact that we want to leap forward as a city, as a community, as an area, to be a shining example for the rest of our county, state, and country. Please help us to center ourselves on the things that the citizens of this city need, what they want, and what we all strive for. Thank you again for bringing us safely together, and help us to do good in our community as we go forth. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And get the stage prepped. Yeah. Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll, please.
Mayor Padilla,
Here.
Councilmembers Hiller. Here. Valdivia Acala,
Here.
Ortiz,
Here, mic check.
Emerson, Kell,
Here.
Nager,
Here.
Dobler,
Here.
Duncan,
Here.
and Hofer. Okay, we have 8 present with Emerson and Hofer absent.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the second agenda item, presentations. City Manager.
Alan Bierman, he's on Zoom.
Mr. Mayor, we have Mr. Bierman available by Zoom to give a presentation.
Okay. Dr. Bierman?
Mr. Mayor, how are you? Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So let me share my screen, and I'll run you through the slides real quick that we have from Topeka Metro today. All right, so I'm here tonight representing Topeka Metro. Always glad to be with you. We've just got a very quick presentation because I know you're pressed for time. Let me I want to just very quickly tell you that we are making changes to the service, nothing dramatic, but the changes we're making are focused on actual users. And we spent a lot of time making sure, last year or so, coming out of the worst of the COVID shutdown, we spent a lot of time, a lot of energy trying to make sure we understand what our users want from Metro. So our changes that we're making to the service, the tweaks that we're making, are all designed to meet the needs of actual users, and they're all designed to be cost neutral. We're trying to be very conscious of the fact that the people who use Metro are not in a position to take on significant burdens. We're trying to be thoughtful about how we invest in the system, and everything we're doing right now is designed to be cost neutral. We've done some exciting things recently. Metro on Demand is something we launched, a microtransit initiative here. We launched this in January. I've heard some people around town referring to it as Uber Light, and that's probably not a bad way to think about it. But we started in the southeast portion of Topeka. Passengers can call, telephone, use the app on the phone. They can use the website. We'll come pick them up at the door and take them to another location within that microtransit area. So if they want to get on the regular service to get across town, we'll take them to connect with the service. but if they're within that zone, we'll take them door to door. And that's a service that we've launched and it's going really pretty well. It's $2 for a one-way ride. And we feel really good about it. And if the model works, we'll probably expand this to other parts of town. We got some grant money, and you're going to see later this year our first 3 electric buses come to Topeka. We're leaning into technology wherever we can to refine the service, to improve the service. We've started making some improvements to the bus barn for charging purposes. And those first 3 electric buses, I'm not quite sure the exact date, but later this year you'll see them come to town. We're going to start with a trial with 3 full-size buses. And then in time, if it proves popular and makes sense, we'll grow that initiative. We have also got some new diesel buses on order, so we're improving the service, but the first 3 electric buses will hit later this year. We've been hard at work, working with the city, of course, to improve access, particularly accessibility, trying to make sure our infrastructure is up to the best it can be. So hopefully as you drive around town, you feel good about how we're improving bus stops and trying to make our service more accessible. Again, more on technology, trying to improve that user experience, trying to make sure we can manage the service better. We have real-time monitoring of buses now, and passengers can do this on their app, on their phone, so they know where their bus is, when their bus is going to be there. Wi-Fi on the buses, and this allows us, allows the users a better experience, allows us to manage the service in a much more effective manner. And then very quickly, because again, want to be respectful of time, want to give you a chance to ask any quick questions. Just a reminder that for every dollar invested in public transportation, we generate $5 in economic return. And that traveling by public transportation is incredibly safe, 10 times safer per mile than traveling by car. And where it makes sense, a household can save about $10,000 by traveling on public transportation every year and living with one less car. And not that we see a lot of that in Topeka, Kansas, in all honesty, but it's a real investment in economic growth and in safety. And for our users, it is a lifeline to work, to medical appointments, to school. Can't tell you how many of my students at Washburn University ride Metro. It's a big deal, and we think we're headed in a good direction. We appreciate the ongoing relationship we have with the city. We think that we all work very well together with the various different departments, and we've got some good things coming. We've spent some time trying to really lean into and understand what our users need, and we're responding to that. And we think there are good things happening and good things coming, and we're excited about where we're headed. So just glad to be with you for a few minutes and happy to take any questions.
Okay. Any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I have one question, one comment. The question on the microtransit, you're testing this in East Topeka. Is the ride that's available within that zone, or can they ride anywhere outside of that zone?
No, so the rides in microtransit keep you within a zone.
Okay.
So you stay within that zone, and you either connect to a bus, a regular bus route, or stay within that zone. So.
Okay, very good. And then a comment, I think I counted 6 slides in your presentation. You've set a new high bar for presentations. We'll keep that in mind for future. Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure.
Councilman Kell.
I actually sat down with Dr. Bierman's people and they had a presentation on the mod system and all the details on it, and it was really well put together. I would actually like to see maybe something like that, a little bit more like that, put out for the public so they can understand it. Because one of my first questions was what Councilman Dober stated, which was, hey, can they go anywhere, or do they have to stay in the bubble? And they answered that they had to stay in the bubble. But I think it's a good test market for Topeka. Next question, though, on the electric buses, what's the battery life on those? Because I've been doing a lot of research on electric vehicles, and I just want it to be where it seems like we're investing in something that 10 years down the road, it's almost like a throwaway situation because, you know, some electric vehicles right now are in that situation. By the time you replace the battery, you just lost all value you had in the car.
Yeah, so a couple of things very quickly. First of all, let me say, as far as Metro on Demand, we're out now as spring hits. Now we've had a little bit of time to get the service up and running. We're out having lots of public forums, trying to talk to anyone and everyone we can to make sure they understand how the service works. As for the electric buses, you'll be glad to know we purchased the extended warranties to make sure we maximize the life of our buses. We try to keep buses on the road for about 12 to 15 years. And we believe with the warranty that the electric buses should last just like a diesel bus, about 12 to 15 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Hiller.
Councilman Kell asked my question, so I just have a comment, and that is to say I appreciate seeing the hard work of the board and the staff and the trends that you're moving on to be effective and reach people. Thank you.
Well, if I can, I just want to brag on the staff for just a second. The board really challenged them towards the end of the worst part of the pandemic. We really challenged them to become increasingly forward-thinking, and they have stepped up to the challenge. They have done truly an outstanding job. I couldn't be more proud of the work they do on a daily basis to look forward.
Dr. Bierman, if I can make a comment as well. You know, describing it as a bubble or a contained area for service, I do appreciate the fact that in drawing that boundaries, you've really taken into consideration the services that the community that is being addressed for groceries and all the other kinds of things that they will need that service for. So you really seem like you've taken into consideration to include the necessary resources that help that particular population. So I appreciate that attention to that detail.
Yeah, I appreciate you picking up on that, Mr. Mayor. We've tried to make sure that as we thought about Metro on Demand, we've tried to make sure accessibility to the grocery store, for example, is one of our highest priorities.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Duncan.
I do have something, but Sylvia first.
Oh, I can't. Okay. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Spencer. I too want to comment. I think this is great. A lot of my constituents are really, really excited about it. But I want to make it clear that, and I think the board is doing a great job of really getting out there and seeing the needs. I do want to compliment on that. But I want to make it clear it goes from I-70 south. And Andy Fry came and gave a presentation and showed us that. And so I'm barely missing that pickup by I-70 because I'm on the north side of I-70 and they only do the south side of I-70. And I'm trying to figure out how to get my grandson to work at 29th and Croco, throw him on that Metro. But I've heard really, really good things about the Metro and people getting to work and getting to different areas, even going to the Walmart out south. And you see it at Walmart, and I think it's great for the community. Yep. So I'm ecstatic, and I just can't wait until we can get on the other side of I-70 and get some of those people. Because, you know, when you really look at it, you know, and I'm looking right there at three entities. We have Pine Ridge, and then we have Ybarra Place where the elderly live, and then you got Paradise Plaza. And those are three entities that really, really need it. Now, I told them to go across I-70 and just wait, you know, give them an address there across the way. But those are three areas that really, really, really need it that are right there. So hopefully we can kind of measure out just a little bit. I'll be glad to see that. But thanks for all that you're doing, and this is exciting.
Well, fingers crossed, Councilwoman Ortiz, it goes well, and then we expand it, you know, into other places in the city. So,
Councilman Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to talk about staffing for a second. I know last year particularly is changes were talked about, whether routes were going to change, and you went through those conversations, subtractions, increasing them, whatever they were. One of the biggest issues was drivers, actually having drivers to drive the buses, which clearly is an issue for everybody. It's not certainly not singular to our transit system. So my first question to this is, where does that stand now? How does the staffing issue with drivers stand now, and what's being done to sort of bring in new drivers?
Sure. So we continue to struggle to find drivers. We've been really fortunate that the core group of drivers we have stuck with us. We have, I think, pretty good relationship between management and the union. So the union have worked well with us to try to meet the need, launch something like Metro on Demand. But we're pulling out every stop we can think of to try and find new drivers, because it's an ongoing challenge to find new ones.
So my follow-up to that then is, and I see your ads, not just locally, but I know you do advertising regionally, sure. So kudos to all that. I guess my question, though, does it go beyond just advertising for drivers, or have you folks looked at any sort of actual job training we can do for people who say, I'd like to be a driver, but I have no idea, how to get into becoming a driver?
Sure. Yeah, we're doing that. We're helping people get their commercial driver's license, for example. If somebody comes forward, we help them. We've got our own training. We've put them through. We're doing exactly that type of thing, trying to get them onto the road if they want to be a driver with us.
Okay, well, I'll just end with it. I mean, I think as we've gone through strategic planning a few weeks ago, and we'll do again, one of the issues we talked about as a council is to increase, we need more transportation options, and we want to see that increase. So I guess as you folks go through looking at that issue, I guess keep us informed, because I think at some point, if that's going to be one of our priorities as a council, we may want some input into how we can help establish further programs to actually develop drivers within our own community, which is a job training program, and then there's a jobs clearly waiting because they're desperate for drivers. So thank you, sir, for being here. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Further questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Dr. Bierman. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good night.
Good night. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, if the clerk will read.
A is approval of a Public Works engineering contract between the City of Topeka and Cook, Flat, and Strobel Engineers, PA, in the amount of $399,000 for the purpose of providing engineering services to include data collection, typographic mapping, and plans and specification for construction bid letting. B are minutes of the regular meeting of March 7, 2023, and there are no applications.
Okay. Heard the consent agenda. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second? Did I hear it first? Okay. Deputy Mayor moves to approve, second from Councilwoman Ortiz, or is that backwards?
I think it was
Nager.
I couldn't say.
Councilwoman Nager moved to approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ortiz
Councilwoman
Okay.
Nager to approve, second from Councilwoman Ortiz.
There we go. Get the record straight there.
Get them in the
Deputy
room,
Mayor.
make it easier. Okay. If you call the vote,
Mayor Padilla,
yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Akala,
Yes.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
and Duncan.
Yes.
We have 8 yes, motion carries.
Okay, motion is carried. We move to action item on the agenda, number 4, if you'll read, Brenda.
A is a resolution introduced by City Manager Stephen Wade making certain findings pursuant to the Kansas Rural Housing Incentive District Act with regard to an application submitted by Doltmeyer, Rolandhagen LLC to establish a rural housing incentive district, and requesting that the Kansas Secretary of Commerce review the resolution and advise the governing body.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second RHID application coming before the governing body. This is located at the southwest corner of 21st and Indian Hills Road. It should develop 22 additional single-family homes with an average size of between 1,800 square foot and 2,400 square foot. This project should bring roughly $10 million of improvement. On your screen in front, we had a question a couple weeks ago about the RHID process. There are 4 steps to this. The first step The applicant brings this to staff to review, to make sure that it fits. Second step, which is where we're at right now, governing body votes to send this resolution to the Department of Commerce for consideration. Commerce will look at it and approve or deny the creation of the district. At that point in time, it will come back to the city for review by an internal panel, making sure that everything fits what we need, and then the governing body will come back to you for a vote on project. So tonight's vote is strictly to send it to the Department of Commerce for consideration.
Okay. Questions for city manager? Councilman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that we're just in the initial phases of this, but first and foremost, I want to apologize to my constituents that I have talked to since the initial vote, because I do believe that my vote was hasty in its approach. I did ask the city manager earlier today about what the incentives were for the RHID. So I figured this is pretty much a done deal because the RHID, through the Department of Commerce, your population has to be, numbers are 60,000, 80,000, and somewhere around there, and then also includes the city of Topeka. So I'm sure this is probably a done deal, but I wanted to understand exactly what the incentives were that were given. And so the city manager sent me a list of like 11 different incentives, and it says basically property tax abatement of up to 25 years for the following allowable uses. So we go from anywhere for payment of relocation assistance, site preparation, sanitary and storm sewers and lift stations, drainage conduits, channels and levees, street grading, paving, graveling, on and on. So all of these different things. And as I was trying to educate myself on this, then what I just want to clarify, city manager, is that what this will do for up to 25 years, the taxes will be, which one is it? The taxes will be waived that this developer has to pay, or they will be collected, which I don't think that's it, collected and then given over to the developer. I think it's actually the first one. The taxes will be waived or reduced.
Councilwoman, this is set up similar to a TIF where the taxes are collected and then that incremental amount of that increase goes into an RHID fund. That fund is then used to reimburse the developer for costs that are agreed to in the development agreement between the governing body and the developer. The law allows for that increment to be appropriated for up to 25 years. The law also allows the governing body to negotiate it to a shorter time frame, but it is collected and then refunded back to pay for those eligible costs that you read.
So it gets paid back to the developer, correct?
Correct, yes.
So nothing's going into the city's pocket for up to 25 years.
The taxes that are currently being assessed on whatever the property looks like now, if it's bare ground, those taxes that are currently being assessed continue to be assessed to the city. It's the incremental difference that you get.
For whatever development ends up being incurred during that time.
Correct.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. The other thing is, I just wanted to clarify based on the letter by Chuck Daltmeyer and John Rolandhagen, this is going to be for the development of Lawrence Bay Phase 2, is that correct? Along with Miller's Reserve?
This one is strictly Miller's Reserve, ma'am.
Okay, so it says we plan on developing our two subdivisions in the city, Miller's Reserve and Lawrence Bay Phase 2 and 3 with RHID incentives.
We've not yet considered Lawrence Bay.
Okay, so for now, that's no. Right? You haven't considered it? So I know we're going through the beginning process. I understand that, but I'm just asking for clarification so folks can get an understanding of this.
This is strictly for 22 lots in Miller's Reserve.
Okay, so we can kind of move away from what they said in their letter there. But I did have a question about Lawrence Bay subdivision. Chuck Doltmeyer goes on to say that there is something like 6 million in delinquencies that are due to the city for Lawrence Bay. Is that number correct?
Ma'am, Chuck Doltmeyer in this particular case does not owe anything in Lawrence Bay.
But I'm asking about Lawrence Bay, period. Isn't that still due to the city? He's saying that's due to the city. I'm just trying to verify that.
We do have back taxes owed in Lawrence Bay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, is it 6 million?
I don't believe that's accurate.
Okay, I would like to know what it is. I would also like to know, for any other subdivisions, developments that are out there that the city has given incentives that have gone south and that have not panned out the way that the city anticipated they would. I would like to know what they owe in back delinquencies, taxes as well. Can I get that? Not today, but can I get that from you?
Ma'am, there's been no incentives provided to Lawrence Bay.
No, I'm asking period. I'm asking period, no matter what it is. I'm talking with the way of housing. Like with the College Hill, I know for a long time the College Hill was problematic,
I think,
right?
yes, ma'am. I think College Hill is the only issue where we have some outstanding.
Okay, then either get me with someone or if I could get that information. Because what I'm trying to determine based on what constituents ask me that are homeowners and taxpayers is we're going through all of this right now with a weird housing market. We're going through all this right now with upheaval about the property taxes. We're going through all of this right now where all prices are being bumped up because of inflation. And now I understand everybody's going to be supporting this RHID, but I just have questions about it. So people can understand it. So my folks in my district can understand it.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
Okay. Okay. And so it seems to me that we are going once again to development on the periphery of the city and where we have any amount of, vacant lots, abandoned homes that could be rehabbed, buildings that could be renovated. I know that's not your guys' fault. I understand that. I am just saying, as the core continues to diminish in a certain aspect. So that's why I'm asking the questions I'm asking. I will not be supporting future votes on this because my concern is in the times that we are in, that we could end up getting ourselves in trouble with this. And I understand you all know more about economic development than I do. But that's all the questions I had, and I would like responses to those with those figures. Thank you, Mayor.
Further question? Councilman Duncan, or did you have?
I have an answer for a question.
Okay, City Manager.
Ma'am, we do have the number on Lawrence Bay specific. That number is just under $2.6 million of current delinquent taxes. The $6 million number that you're talking about or asked about is future owed.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have one piece of good news that might help here. We are expecting to present an application here the first session of April that is, I think, is going to meet some of your requests.
Okay, thank you, City Manager.
Councilman Duncan.
And I'll verify this by going back and reading the law for like the 10th time. That two things, it's actually been expanded or going to be expanded by the legislature this year to all cities, regardless of size, this program. But the second thing is, as this has to go through state approval, I can assure you, if anyone still owes taxes, the state is very unlikely, based on the guidelines they've been given, to approve those projects. So the good news is, oftentimes if we're getting these, somebody's probably about to pay a tax bill if they owe back taxes. So just thought I'd pass that information along. Thank you.
Councilman Doger.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a little bit of background for those that might be watching. The city in the past did several TIFs that were the city sold the bonds for the project, with the debt service theoretically coming from the tax increment. And, you know, in the midst of 2007, 2008, that didn't pan out. And College Hill's a great example, although now I think we would all agree that College Hill is an asset to the community. Going forward, we're not, all our TIFs are pay-as-you-go. So the city's not putting its bonding authority on the line. That'll certainly be the case with the RHIDs that we do. So the developers will still have to finance everything, and then they'll receive payment in arrears of that tax increment. I might also point out that the RHID is available for any building project in Topeka. On the residential side, that can be infill housing, redevelopment, second stories of existing buildings downtown. It's really a wide-ranging act, and I think it's going to provide a lot of incentive for development, which we need. So, and again, as the city manager said, or city attorney, it can be up to 25 years. It can be for all of the city taxes or city increment, or we can negotiate that. So I think as we go forward, if we look at what's the real need for housing in this community, how many units do we need like right now? And as we fill that gap, we're going to be less likely to provide this incentive in the future. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. Respectfully, I would say, Councilman Dobler, that I have my doubts at times with College Hill. My understanding, and if I'm wrong on this, my apologies, but my understanding in College Hill, ownership is under one of the entities that is very dubious, that hopefully changing our culture of property maintenance and dealing with these LLCs will help deal with and extinguish. So I could be wrong on that. If so, my apologies. If not, I think it's very dubious with College Hill and the level of what folks are getting for what they're paying for. Thank you, Mayor.
With all due respect, I was speaking to driving through College Hill right now and comparing it to what it looked like 25 or 30 years ago, and it's I don't care who owns it, it's definitely an improvement beyond where it was. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, as we all kind of get used to what this RHID thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but similar to the TIF, I think Councilman Dobler kind of went through the list of infrastructure kinds of things, or else you did. It's not to build the house and everything in it. It's limited in terms of what costs it will reimburse, and those are negotiated. Also, it, similar to a TIF, is set up with what they call the but-for. So it's not just a subsidy just to get something going. They're going to be required to, I assume at the state level and then back with us, to demonstrate how this project would not work without that. And so we, in most cases, would not be giving up, maybe in almost all cases, the entire increment in taxes either, right? It would just be whatever it takes to cover that investment that they need to make. That's the but-for.
So the reimbursable costs are very clearly defined.
Right.
And there's 11 different points on that. And yes, we are requiring a but-for demonstration. If it wasn't for this incentive, it would not be built.
Right. Just wanted to clarify that while we're getting used to this. It also, though, allows more than just property tax to be used. Is that correct?
RHID is only property tax.
Only property tax. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, when referencing the College Hill area, I do definitely agree. It is wonderful to pass by it. My concern, as I think Councilwoman Hiller's concern, not wanting to speak for her, for code, for anything else, is the crisis that we are dealing with the internal situations that are going on in this city in multifamily dwellings that may look pretty on the outside, but the folks on the inside are suffering from kind of slumlordishness. So thank you, Mayor.
Further comments? This is an action item. We've had discussion. The chair would entertain a motion.
Move approval.
A motion to approve by Deputy Mayor Dobler. I see a second. Second by Councilwoman Nager. If you will call the vote, please.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Akala,
No.
Ortiz,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes.
All right, we have 8 yes with Councilmember Valdivia Akala voting no. Motion carries.
Okay, the motion's been carried. We'll move to agenda item 4B. Please read.
B is a resolution introduced by the members of the Public Infrastructure Committee comprised of council members Tony Emerson, Neil Dobler, and Michelle Hofer, amending resolution number 9338 to additional projects in 2023 utilizing citywide half-cent sales tax.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This comes to us from the Public Works Infrastructure Committee on a 3-0 vote. This is a way to incorporate some additional projects using the citywide half-cent sales tax this year. Braxton?
Yes, thank you. This is a direct result of a challenge that the city manager made me, and that was to move the needle on the amount of streets that we're improving particularly this construction season. So we've been very intentional in terms of the streets that we have selected. We've tried to be citywide. We've also had to take into consideration the PCI, or the Pavement Condition Index, on these streets, because we want to get in and hit them hard and fast with a mill and overlay and move on. So our target PCI was that 45 to 65 range, where we know that our base is still likely going to be good, so that we're not having to do long time-consuming base repair. So the idea is to come in, really move the needle. We're looking at approximately 24.1 lane miles, and this is additional work, more than what was approved by you guys last year in terms of the half-cent sales tax work. And with that, I'll gladly stand for any questions that you have on this item.
Anyone from the Infrastructure Committee? Deputy Mayor?
I guess I'm the only one here representing that committee. So, yeah, I think the comments that were made in the committee meeting centered around our delight, perhaps, in the fact that we're going to spend almost another $5 million in, as Braxton said, quick-hitting projects that don't require a lot of prep. I think anybody that's driven the streets recently, as is the case every year coming out of winter at this time, we have a lot of needs out there. This is going to certainly not address all of them, but start to go a long ways towards addressing those. So just really appreciate the fact that the challenge was made and accepted, and we have this in front of us. Having said that, I will make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Deputy Mayor Dobler, second by Councilman Kell. If you will call the vote, please.
Councilmembers Valdivia Akala,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
and Councilmember Hiller,
Yes.
and Ortiz. I missed you.
Well, I didn't think you wanted my vote there.
Seeing if you're paying attention, right? All right, we have 8 yes, motion carries.
I'm a yes vote.
8 yes.
Write that down.
Right.
Okay, motion's been passed. Move to action item 4C. If you will read, please.
C is a resolution introduced by the members of the Public Infrastructure Committee comprised of council members Tony Emerson, Neil Dobler, and Michelle Hofer, recommending approval of certain public infrastructure projects in 2024 utilizing citywide half-cent sales tax and ARPA funds.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the same similar situation to the last vote. This is just for 2024, and would like to share with you that Braxton's leadership in Public Works has been absolutely spectacular. We are thrilled with what he's doing, and I think tonight's votes show that.
Thank you. I'll give him a clap. Are there any questions? And if not, the chair would entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Councilman Kell. Second by Councilwoman Nager. You call the vote, please.
Councilmembers Ortiz,
There you go, yes.
Kale,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
and Valdivia Aquila.
Yes.
We have 8 yes, motion carries.
Motion carries, and I would like to echo the same comments from City Manager about Mr. Braxton's performance. There for a while, he was carrying a couple loads with both utilities and infrastructure, and he's really been, I think, responding to the desires of the governing body and working closely with the City Manager. So, thank you very much, Braxton.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off? Okay, Councilwoman Valdivia Aquila?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say too, there's just not enough good things I can say about Braxton. We need 10 more of him within the city, all due respect to all the other great people that are there, because he has dealt in District 2 with long-standing issues that have been there forever, that are increasing in scope, and he is looking for viable answers. So I think that his ability to maneuver and change and the wealth that he carries in that head of his, that wealth of knowledge, cannot be underestimated. So it's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay. He's shying away back in the corner there. No. We'll move on to action items 4D. Please read.
D is approval of an amendment to the License and Management Agreement, contract number 49243 with Friends of Topeka Zoo that will revise provisions of the agreement relating to the sales tax revenue and payments by the city to FOTS.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to turn this over to City Attorney. She's worked very hard with this one.
In front of you today is an approval of an amendment to the licensing and management contract that you signed, about 18 months ago with the Friends of the Zoo for management. This is necessary in light of the Gage Park Improvement Authority sales tax vote that went into law. That sales tax will begin to be collected in April. So this amendment has been worked out to make sure that structurally that all works so that finance understands how do we measure the collections, how do we offset that against the amount that is due from the city for that management fee. And I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for the City Attorney? Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Councilman Kell. Second by Councilwoman Nager. If you'll call the roll, please.
Councilmembers Kell,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Yes.
Valdivia Aquila,
Yes.
and Ortiz.
And Ortiz is yes.
We have 8 yes, motion carries.
Okay. Motion's carried. We'll move to action item 4, non-action items. If the clerk will read.
A is discussion concerning potential utility rate changes for infrastructure maintenance and investment.
Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, this is the point in time of the meeting to where we've all been anxiously waiting. Utility rate increases. So as we start off, there's a couple of things I would like to rehash a little bit from last week, just so that we make sure that we're all together on this one. If I go to the first slide, this is comparing residential rates. This is the 5/8 inch meter inside the city. Current rates are a little over $92, $92.66. In 2024, that would go to $99.17. You can see, however, on the slide, the difference between a 5,000 gallon usage and a 1,500 gallon usage. At a 1,500 gallon usage, so therefore less, I'm sorry, this is on the slide is outside city. So inside versus outside. Inside would be $99.17. Outside would be $100.40. Compared to the 1,500 gallon. So we were talking about $99.17 at 5,000 gallons a month. For a person using 1,500 gallons, the difference is $55.11. And when we talked about this in December, I don't know that we did a great job of defining the difference between using 5,000 gallons, which is a typical household in Topeka, as opposed to low usage. So if you're a one-person household, a two-person household, you're going to use less water. And so instead of that $92, at 1,500 gallons, at current usage rates, it's $51.89. The increase proposed takes it to $55.11. And if you're outside city, at that 1,500 gallons, we're at $100.40. So you can see the difference between inside and outside. We also talked a little bit last week about rate assistance, and appreciate Councilwoman Ortiz, her help this afternoon, helping maybe to better define some assistance programs that are currently available. Right now, through franchise fees and the help of Mary Thomas at CRC, whom we greatly appreciate their help and their assistance, we make available $74,500 annual, and that is split between water and wastewater. That helps about 1,000 households on an average year. We also have currently a water share program. This is where individuals on their bill have the opportunity to donate money into a fund for assistance. There's about $16,000 a year contributed into this fund. Proposed with this new rate increase, we talked last week about $500,000 being made on an annualized basis. To put that into context, if we did the $300 that we talked about last week, that would help 1,666 households. If we did the 150, which is similar to what we're doing through franchise fees, that number goes over 3,300 households. Right now, the average bill increase that's proposed on a 5,000 gallon household annualized is a little over $78. So with that increase of $78, you can see that the additional assistance being proposed offsets that amount. At a low water usage rate, the 1,500 gallons, that proposed annual increase is $38.64. So again, if even at the $150 level, we are more than offsetting the increase that's being proposed. What's new tonight is a discussion about commercial rates and industrial. So what is being proposed right now on a 10,000 gallon per month usage, we are a little bit below what was proposed back in December. We're talking about a 10.7% increase in 24, an 8.3% increase in 25, and an 8.2% increase in 2026. At our industrial rates, so these are our larger users, at 1 million gallons a month, again, the rates are less than what was proposed in December. The average rate increase is 9.2%. What was proposed earlier was 9.85%. And at our largest users, this is the 15 million gallons a month. Again, the rate is less than what was proposed in December. We're at the 9.2% increase as compared to the 9.85% increase previously. And I know this is a little hard to read up on screen, but what we're looking at here is the difference between yellow and orange. Yellow is Topeka. Orange are comparable communities. Lawrence is at the top. Wichita and Cedar Rapids, Iowa are at the bottom. So the lowest yellow bar is current rates, 2023. The second yellow bar just above it is the rates for 2024. That number compares against 2023 rates in these cities. So even with us having an increase in 24, we're right in the middle of what other communities are at in 2023. I can share with the governing body that Lawrence has approved a water rate increase of 11.8% in 24 and a 12% increase in 25. That compares to our 9.2%. Their wastewater rate in Lawrence is going up 10.2% in 24 and 10.9% in 25. This is the 1 million gallon comparison. You'll see the same thing at 5 million gallons, and you'll see the same thing at 15 million gallons. So our utilities department has worked hard to make sure that we remain competitive, even in the appearance of these rate increases. And with that, we have both our CFO and our utilities director available for additional questions that I might not be able to answer.
Thank you, City Manager. Questions on the presentation from the body? Deputy Mayor Dobler.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, what's our current pilot from combined utilities?
We're currently paying about $7.5 million from utilities over into the general fund.
And do you have any idea where our reserves at right now?
We're somewhere in that $28 million range-ish.
So as a percentage, that's 27, 28%?
It's about 28%.
I wonder if we look at some option to reduce pilot from the utilities to drive down those rates just a little bit more, perhaps over a period of 3 years. I think as a body, we've expressed a desire to lower the reserves as a percentage. I think our our best practice is at least 15%. We're almost double that. What would be the impact if we cut the pilot?
Deputy Mayor, I can tell you that we've looked at that. I'm also really cautious about that in so much as I think the House tomorrow is scheduled to vote on, I think it's Senate Bill 248. Senate Bill 248 basically would eliminate the sales tax on food here locally. Deputy Mayor, the impact to that is between $5 and $6 million to the general fund. It's also an additional $2.5 million to our street fund. So we're pushing $8 million of impact if this were to pass. That $8 million, not so coincidentally, happens to be the variance between kind of that 20% target for reserve to the 28 where we're at right now. So if this were to pass, honestly, our excess reserves would go away in the first year. I think we would be a little hesitant to throw that out right now.
Good point. So hopefully our friends in the legislature can see their way clear to allow local government to make decisions that affect our citizens directly. Obviously, there's an opportunity if that doesn't pass to perhaps come back and visit the issue. It seems like pilot is pretty high at this point.
We don't disagree.
Great. So we'll know by the next time we get together if there's an opportunity to look at that. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Valdivia-Acla.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, can you explain what pilot is for us who don't know?
Sure. A pilot is an acronym for payment in lieu of taxes. In essence, it's fairly close to property taxes.
Okay.
So our property is actually exempt from taxes on utilities, but this fee is paid as if it was a property tax over into the general fund.
Okay, I remember that from that question that constituent had that I brought forth to you. The other, excuse my dog, hold on just. The other question I had is, can you tell me, with the infrastructure money that the state got, and I know how you have talked about that before, is there any more avenues that we can approach there? I understood that you said that did not necessarily mean that funds came into the city, but, I don't know if it meant to reduce, I forget exactly how you explained it. You may have to explain that again. But is there any more ARPA through the state that we can be looking at? And also, are we still applying for any type of federal funds for, obviously at the federal level, applications that we have out there by our grant writer? And then I have another question to follow up after that.
Sure. So as far as grants, ma'am, we're always looking for opportunities. A lot of the state program went into in essence, a revolving loan fund. And earlier this year, we actually took advantage of that in so much as we asked for approval to finance some bonds through that revolving fund. That was done at rates much cheaper than on the open market. So it was about, recollection, $40 million, $68 million. That was quite a bit cheaper than again, through open market. So that in essence is the equivalent of a grant that we received. As far as other opportunities, we're always looking for that. I think one of the questions last week was whether or not that could be used to help reduce rates. The answer to that is no. In so much as those grants would have to be used on infrastructure. And so that would be replacing pipes, enhancing our purification systems, et cetera.
So then that would be a total no, with grants being able to be utilized for any type, lowering of any type of rate increase. That's what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now we got that down. So do we know if this would pass at this modified level that you have presented, what that is going to bring in every year to the city?
I think combined it's 108 million. Is that right? The total revenue in 24 would be about 108. Yeah, about $108 million.
108 million. And so I watched the meeting, the second meeting for the public, and I heard you say that we are 80 to 90 million dollars behind on even getting up to the 150-year level. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's for water main replacement.
Okay, and that's even getting up to that 150, and the standard is 100.
Yes, ma'am.
And okay, and then would any of that increased revenue, would that be purely for fixing the lines, or would any of that go to the 300 million that you were also talking about that is debt that we are carrying?
Total amount for 24 for water main replacement? About $9.5 million in 2024 for water main replacement.
Okay. But the rate increases are, is it my understanding that the money that you are saying that we need from citizens is going to go specifically into fixing the water, all the utilities, the lines, all of that, getting them up to that level where they need to be? It's not going to be going for other things. It is specifically being earmarked for this.
No, ma'am. There's actually operational increases. So for example, our chemical costs for chlorine are up 100%-ish for chlorine.
Chlorine, I think, was 40, some of them were 60, something else, lime is 100.
Lime is 100% increases. Our chlorine's 40%. We obviously have some wage increases year over year. Just healthcare alone increases that. So it's not all going to water main replacement.
It's going to go for the whole package.
Yes,
then,
ma'am.
of maintaining the utilities department
Yes, ma'am.
and the underground infrastructure.
But what I can say to that is, we have pulled some projects off our projected capital expenses. So what's been approved currently in our CIP, we've been looking at that, and in some cases we are delaying some projects back to try to help with rates.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Councilman Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just got a few questions. First of all, when you said 108 million, just to clarify, that's not 108 million new money. That's the new total, correct?
Total revenue.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a difference somewhere in between what we're collecting now and the 108, right?
It's about $9 million.
Okay. I just want to make that clarification that people didn't misinterpret that we were getting 108 million of new.
Sorry.
Dollars. No, I know. That's why I was making that clarification.
The 108 is total.
Right. I mean, that'd be, but yeah, no, just making that. Oh, what is our current pilot rate? Do we know?
It's $7.5 million.
No, I meant that what do we charge when someone opts into that program?
I think that depends on the valuation at that particular time.
That's how it's based. So this is just for clarification, Deputy Mayor. When you say it's too high, are you talking about that rate? Looking at that rate that we?
Well,
I might be okay with that. I just wanted clarification on or that we're collecting too much. You'd like us to take a look at what that rate is.
whatever it takes to get it to 7.5 million.
Okay.
I mean, the theory is we've got infrastructure that's worth X.
Yeah.
And if it was commercial or something, we'd be paying those taxes. But
Yeah.
the reality is, how do you value an asset that doesn't pay taxes, never gets sold?
Yeah.
There's no way to do it. So somewhere, somebody comes up with a figure, and maybe that's what we're asking, is look at how that figure is
No,
determined.
that helps. That's where I wanted to get some
So
clarification.
Councilman, I can tell you, our assets right now are about $3.6 billion.
Yeah.
And we don't increase the level of pilots as the asset grows.
Okay.
So if that helps any.
No, that helps. That's why I was trying to get clarification. Just two more quick things. I mean, no one needs to respond to this. I always, you'll hear me once again complain, as I talked to Freddie about, we get the budget, the reserve number that we keep, and if there's ever a chance to keep it closer to what we would like it at, taking a look at that number. I'm pretty sure there's a really good lobbyist at the League of Kansas Municipalities who's going to bury Senate Bill 248, but we'll see after tomorrow, and hopefully we can take a look at that. But my last question is on page 4, I think, of the handout here. It has the annual credits available per household. Kansas Gas, Evergy, the Topeka Water and Wastewater Utilities is 75 each. Does that change at all under the new, or is this the current?
That's the current rate.
Okay, well, does that credit change at all under anything that's being proposed on our end? We can't change Evergy.
We have not proposed a franchise
Okay, that's fine.
fee
I just
increase.
wasn't sure because I didn't see it. Okay, perfect. Nope, that helps. Thank you.
Further questions?
Go ahead.
Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. I will confess right off, I've been trying to keep up with this, but with all the different mailings and all the different handouts, I'm struggling to connect dots on some of them, so forgive me if I've missed something. I really appreciate that Mary's here, and I'm hoping either staff or Mary could answer a couple questions. I am sure that I saw a document or a slide that had like a 3-year history on our utility payments. I can only find one that has 1 year. But either way, I really appreciate the idea that maybe we could help the lowest income folks, but I am having trouble connecting the dots on the numbers. So one question, if I may, is like one of the handouts we got was a report that I think was produced by CRC, and it's just for 2022, but it indicates that there were 468 service entries for wastewater and 470 for water. And later, though, in many places, the number that gets reported as to how many people we've helped is 960-something to 1,000. My question is it really just 470? Is it the same households that are getting money from both funds? And she's nodding yes.
Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and Councilwoman Hiller. Yes, the 900 number is the total number of households that have been served through that term or that year. In your 3 utilities, typically, water is included in rent, lease, and if it's built into the lease, we cannot assist in
Understood.
in diverting some of that expense for them or giving them the credit, if you will, because the bill is not in their name. So, and then you have also the interesting twist of some are on city freshwater, but have a lateral system or a different wastewater, and vice versa. So we have to sort through all that, and so when you see that 400 number on the water and wastewater is not going to match on the household served, but overall, all households that we served, whether they had any water credit or not, is 900, whatever you quoted.
But there isn't any duplication inside that 966?
There is
Although
not.
you might have helped with one or the other rather than both, if that's
Correct.
what I'm
Sometimes they just have electric, sometimes they just need gas. So it varies, but we go through it and know exactly through what we put into Client Track on the Homeless Task Force. As a partner of Homeless Task Force, we know the actual number unduplicated accounts month by month, and that's your total for the year for 22.
Okay, because this one says, to that point, duplicated total 1,970, but the unduplicated total is about half of that. Is that what you're saying?
900, whatever you said.
900
Yeah.
and something.
I apologize.
Okay.
I did not. I provided that spreadsheet to many a folk, but I didn't think to bring it from myself.
Well, and maybe I'll find it, but I went through the emails. And
I'm happy
agenda
to send it
attachments.
to you directly.
That's it, yay. Well, I have this one, but this is just 2022. I know there was one that had a sequence of years as well.
We've
And
been managing this for 9 years for the city.
Right. And I don't know if this question would end up coming back to you at all, but I had, with the first introduction of this idea of the grant last week, I was having trouble for some of the things Mary said. If low-income people aren't paying water at all, but they need money to get by, are we going to, will this help them? But the sheet that I have on the 5/8 cents meters, you went through some numbers a little earlier. If somebody's currently paying $51.89 a month and they still maintain under $1,500, then they're going to go up to $62 with the latest proposal. So it's only going up $10 a month, which would be $120 in a change over the course of the year for them. And then even the 5,000, it's going up $20 a month in the handout that I have dated last week. So it would only be going up $240 a year, more or less, of course. So I was just trying to figure out whether $300 would help, is the best place to put it, I guess, to help people rather than just having the rates be a little bit lower for one thing, and also trying to match up how this would work.
So inside the city, the rates are less than that. Inside the city, your average annual increase for a 1,500 gallon a month user, so this is a 1 or 2 person household,
Right.
is $38.64
Per month?
on an annualized basis. It's the 51 to 55 number. And on a 5,000 gallon household, it's $78.12 on an annualized basis.
Okay, so why would we need to have a grant of $300?
That's the number. So I gave you 2 options. One was at $300, that would serve about 1,700 households. If you cut it in half to $150, which is the level that we're currently using through our franchise fee program, that would help 3,300 households. The number can be shifted.
With the records that we have for the most part not quite spent $74,000 a year recently on the water money. So how would we, and this is really just a question, how would we reach all those other families we're not even spending what we're doing now. And yes, their bills would go up, those who have water bills. Just how would we?
As we do this program for several years, we always start the first week in February to coincide with tax time. And we always have tax preparers there 2 days a week doing taxes for free. So we put it all together because they need to prove up their 22 or the previous year income regardless. So it's kind of a one-stop, get 2 things knocked out. So by mid-year, there's always about 300 or 400 customers we have not seen that we saw the previous year because we retain these files for the city. And the first thing we do is put out a postcard letting them know we have not seen them. And boy, here they come because they forget. They get focused on LEAP or share the warmth or whatever it is they're involved in at the moment because, February, March were cold. And by the time spring rolls around, they kind of forget that, but they are so glad to be reminded because they love, if they are a customer of both freshwater and wastewater, they love that $150. That's like a new car battery. It's a big deal. And
I understand
here they
that.
come. So we
Understand that.
could do things like that. We tend not to spend a lot of money within the program to advertise the program because we want as much money to go to the households as absolutely possible.
Understand.
So Councilwoman Ortiz challenged me earlier today to do a better job of making it easy to apply.
Okay.
And do a better job of getting that word out. And so part of that would be on us to make sure that people know that there is assistance available.
The other thing that you said last week was that your concept was that this would work sort of like LEAP does. Is that correct?
I said that, and I think that got confusing. And so, again, think of it as an expansion of what is currently available. So the franchise fee program right now, we have parameters set on that. So this would be a separate new fund available. We would maintain the franchise fee. This would be a separate entity for additional assistance.
So would your vision be that if you qualified income-wise, we would just send a check to the city so your bill was prepaid for a certain period of time? Or would you have to be delinquent and be coming with an accumulated delinquent bill? How are you?
I think we're working through the logistics on that one.
Okay.
So we did hear you last week, and we've had discussions about what you said last week. We don't know if this would be on a quarterly basis, if this would be on a semi-annual basis, but what I had suggested last week, it would be $300 at once. And after listening to you, we are challenging that assumption, and I would say it's a little bit up in the air as what the logistics would mean.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I didn't want people to have to be 5 months in arrears or 7 months in arrears to get their maximum benefit.
We don't want that either.
Because we cut people off at 60 days if we can. Is the idea that this is and again, if it's work in progress, fine, that this is a rebate, that people would have to pay their bills first and get the money back, or that we would be just paying the city directly like we do with some?
Mary, I think right now it's just a credit to their bill, right?
It's a credit to their bill regardless of where they stand on their payment. I mean, obviously, no one wants their water shut off, but in some of the other programming, like if you need lease or rent assistance, some agencies want you to have a 3-day notice before they'll assist. And that's, I mean, it's almost ridiculous because by the time the machine gets into place, they're already evicted. So no, that is not the way this program for 9 years has run, and that's not what that's not what customers have come to expect. It is just assistance for those that are on very fixed incomes. At $1,000, $1,200 a month, we see them trying to figure out how to make it all work, and even that $350 to the bottom line once a year is huge for them, and we see them every year without fail. They start calling in November. When you open? When's that going to happen?
I understand that. I'm just trying to, we've got a lot of low-income people in town and a lot of challenges.
I know.
And we want people to pay their bills, not just wait.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
I would think you'd want to segregate this out or grade it out because, as we saw with Kira, or at least it's been our observation, people go a long time without paying rent. They get out of the habit of paying rent.
Right.
And here they come, 3 months behind, and the sheriff's knocking at the door. And that's not what anybody wants, but they got out of the habit of doing that. And we don't want this to happen with their water.
Well, and you're delightful, but we don't want them to have to be coming once a month for $20 to rack up their...
Amen, sister.
Okay. Well, if you're working on it, thank you. I wasn't there yet myself either. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, if I could clarify something I said earlier, or correct rather. So I got asked what the total revenue was, and in my head I flipped revenue and expense. Our expense projected for 2024 is the $108 million. Revenue is actually $101 million. The reason for the gap there is we're spending down reserves on a cash to capital basis. So that's the difference there of that $7 million. We're actually spending down reserves.
Thank you for the clarification. Any follow-up, Councilman Duncan?
Nope.
Okay. Councilman Cap?
I want to take this time to remind everyone that there is that meeting tomorrow night. I think Taylor's going to put the slide up about it. 5:30 here at the Holiday Building. So this way, anyone that has any more input or any more questions can come in. Can also email the city manager. And as the slide's up now. So if anyone has any questions, if you're watching this on Facebook, just pause it, or YouTube, just pause it and write down all the information. This is one of these matters that goes unseen. Everyone sees the roads. They see a dilapidated building. They don't see that pipe in the ground. I have I was fortunate my father was master plumber, so I know all about when things are going bad underground, it becomes an issue real quick. And just as the city manager said, we're coming out of that season for the roads. We're about to get into wet season, and wet season can have an issue with the water mains, and hot and dry season can have a issue with the water main. So this is something we definitely need to make sure we're looking at and working as much as we can as a city to get those water mains replaced as quickly as possible, because if we're just repairing and fixing them all the time, that's going to more likely end up costing us more in the long run than just taking care of the issue. Now, Mr. Manager, how many meters does the city monitor right now?
Approximately 57,000.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
All right. So an idea I had, as a former low-income family myself, what if we rounded up the dollar amount to the next dollar, and we can turn around and put that into a fund to help the low-income families, and on average, that would be what, $28,000 a month that we could be putting aside. And then also on this qualification of the $300, as a former low-income family, I almost see it better being spread out across the qualifying time. Get people pre-qualified and spreading it out rather than one lump sum. Because if you just knock some off each month, it makes that every month a little bit better, rather than just knocking out 3 months for them or 4 months for them. And as it was said before, sometimes you forget to pay that bill, forget that habit. So maybe we could, at 12 months, that's $25 a month we could be knocking off a bill. So those are some options I was looking at to assist the low income, is, like I said, rounding up bills to put into a fund. And on average, that's going to be 50 cents a bill. So out of the 57,000, that's $28,000 a month.
So a couple different points on that. That's actually, utilities is telling me right now that that's actually how the water share program was initially started, was as a roundup type program. Our billing system as it exists currently does not have that capability. I will tell you that we are looking at new systems, and that may be something down the road that we could look to implement, but we can't automatically do that now. What we can do is do a better job of promoting the water share program and encourage additional donations. It's an average about $16,000 a year. I think last year was closer to 18, but we certainly can push to grow it. But right now I can't do what you're asking.
All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Sylvia Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Mary with CRC. She gets it. She understands it because she deals with it. And it was very good to hear her explanation so that everybody understands. Those are just the people that come forward and ask for help. There's a lot of people that don't ask for help. Me and Steve had a very good conversation today, very productive conversation. And we talked about somebody that's in their 60s that's still working just because they can't afford to pay the bills. And so the wife is still working. And, there's a lot of proud people out there that they're not going to come forward and ask for this money. But I wanted to remind my colleagues of one thing. I hope we mirror it like the franchise fee money so that it's available all year long. You heard testimony from Mary say that, people at the beginning of the year, they're excited, they have their income tax money, they have this and that. And then once that runs out, they're looking for somewhere or something, some help, and that's when that money can kick in if it's left like that. And, me and Steve even talked about putting an age limit on it. And we have to remember the disabled as well as the elderly. I was sharing with him that I'm dealing with somebody that caught COVID that's 55 years old, that was a correction officer and could no longer work. And the doctors can't even figure out what's wrong with her legs well. And, right now she said there's no help out there for me. And I've been able to help her process some help. So we have to remember those people as well that don't have children. or don't have dependents, that they're by themselves, and make sure that they're in that gap as well. So I look forward to that. Again, I'm glad that we educated everybody on the share water, because I too agree that it's not publicized enough. I've used it for some constituents, and I think that just gives them another avenue. But there's a lot of people that are proud, and there's a lot of people that aren't going to step forward, and that's okay. But who knows what they'll do if this if these utility rates goes through. I can see more people coming through, because we've all heard the needs and we're hearing the needs, and so I just want to make sure that the application process is as simple as it can be. And I want to make sure that we look at the disabled and the elderly. Again, thank Mary for getting it and understanding it, because it is a process. And if you don't know anything about the process, or you've never had to fill out an application, or you're not helping anybody fill out an application, there's certain questions on there that you have to make sure that are answered in order for you to qualify, because one question can throw you all the way off. And so we just want to make sure that we get the best for our citizens that are paying. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, we talked about pilot a little bit. What are the admin fees that utilities pays?
Can you give me just a quick second?
Sure.
If you'll give me a minute just to verify, but it's around 2 million.
And that's fine.
Okay.
Just approximate. So 7.5 plus 2, $9.5 million from utility fees are going to the general fund. And I'm not opposed to that, because we collect a lot of those fees from people outside the city limits. I appreciate the fact that we've raised water rates for outside the city folks. You know, if you want to live outside the city, great, more power to you. But if you want to use city utilities, you should pay more than the citizens of Topeka. I'm going to start, I think we're probably at the point where we're going to start some proposals, maybe for discussion next week, and then carrying on into April. I would start out by proposing, assuming that the House does not pass the bill, assuming Councilman Duncan does his outstanding job.
Never assume.
Yeah. If that happens, which I guess we'll know by next week, maybe not, but I would like to look at reducing the pilot from 7.5 million. Now, I'd like to do this in a way that doesn't actually reduce the pilot, but there's a refund from the general fund for a period of 3 years, from 7.5 to 5. So that's $2.5 million a year, with the stipulation that 2.5 million goes to water line replacement, or could be sewer line replacement if that's more important. You guys set the priorities. But infrastructure improvements. And I think that I had a conversation with you earlier. You said the current debt load is 25%. So of that $108 million, we're paying at least $25 million a year to service our debt. And that has increased dramatically over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I think there's a correlation to when we stopped approving project budgets at the council level, which I think happened in 2014 or something like that. And I'm not going to address that with this cycle, but I certainly will come back to that at some point. I'd also like to know what the impact to the stormwater utility would be if our increases for stormwater were 3.5% per year for the next 3 years. One thing I like about reducing the stormwater rate further is, again, that's only citizens of Topeka that pay that, so the positive effects would would be to city residents. You know, if that doesn't work, I mean, tell me, what are the impacts going to be? Our levies are going to fall down or whatever. I guess I'd just say, be prepared to provide that information. And with that, I will quit, Mayor. Not like leave, just.
Yeah, okay, good. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor, yes, we'll definitely run those numbers and examine the impact of the general fund with that. I also maybe wanted, if I could, set some expectations. Questions come up a couple times. It hasn't in the last 2 weeks, but it came up earlier in regards to when are we going to stop seeing rate increases? And if I could, Mr. Mayor, I want to quickly address that. I don't see that ever happening, and I don't want to say that, but reality is with $300 million of debt, we don't have the ability to not see rate increases. We are playing with some models that would hopefully flatten future rate increases. Those models are very preliminary right now, but if we don't do rate increases at this point in time, we're at risk of defaulting on debt. So I don't want anybody going into this thinking that this is the last time we're going to see a rate increase, because I would be absolutely misleading everybody. That's not the case. Again, I'm trying to set expectations so that we realize that this is not a one-time thing.
And further? I appreciate those comments, City Manager. Earlier when we visited, I think we addressed that question, and I think it's good that you bring it out here during this meeting. If there are no further comments, I want to thank the governing body for the questions that they've been asking. I think this is really showing some due diligence to the public, that when presented with a problem, the first answer isn't where we're going to stop, that we continue to look at it, be critical about how we're trying to get to our goals. And it's much appreciated that we're paying attention to this. And I encourage as many people as possible, if you can't personally attend, as Councilman Kell suggests, try and watch it so we can have these. If I could finish before you point something out, I would appreciate that. Thank you. If you would just take some time to make yourself informed as much as possible about what we're trying to accomplish, and take an active part in this, because it affects us all. Everyone sitting in this room gets affected by this decision as well. So I appreciate the comments. Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make one suggestion. I watched both meetings. The first one was only 10 minutes. And then the second one was like a little bit over half an hour. And I know that there were elders. I think there were like 3 or 4 elders in the room. I think none of them came up to the podium, and I understand that. And I think that that's actually good that they, weren't kind of forced to go up to the podium. But I will tell you, it was very, very hard to hear them. And by extension, I would imagine that other folks listening in were having a hard time. So I don't know if there's some way that, a microphone can be passed around so the public can hear the actual questions that the citizens have, because it was very, very difficult at the second meeting. Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, I can share with you that communication staff have acquired a wireless mic for that purpose. So we will have that available to us tomorrow for that discussion for that reason.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion. Also, it's not a bad practice that whoever's monitoring or facilitating the meeting to repeat a question that's been asked so that people can hear it very clearly, because they usually have the microphone available to them. So again, thank you for all the discussion. No further comment on this non-action item. We'll move to public comment. And we had 2 people signed up. I will call them. The first was Mr. Kenneth Otten. Mr. Kenneth Otten.
Here.
I believe he left, but I wanted to make sure in case he was just outside. Okay. We also have Peggy Dickerson. Peggy Dickerson is on our list. Is she Zoom or in person? Peggy Dickerson. Okay, seeing no one. We'll move on to the announcements. Madam Clerk.
For the March 21st agenda, we have the 2023 annual MWDBE utilization goal update. We will have 2 expenditure ordinances on the consent agenda. Action items will include a final plat and a zoning ordinance for Mission Ridge subdivision, and then we will have a zoning ordinance for Bear Creek Acres Trust. We will have a resolution for temporarily suspending governing body rule 2.11, and then we have an amendment to the CIP and CIB for Polk Quincy Utility Relocation Project, and then the corresponding bonds. Discussion includes the utility rates.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got 2 announcements tonight. One is Public Works is closely monitoring the possibility of winter weather Thursday night into Friday morning. National Weather Service is reporting thunderstorms changing to snow once temperatures drop. In other words, it's Kansas. Deputy Director Trower and his crews are closely monitoring that. Second item, we've learned that the asphalt plants are targeting April 1st as an open date. And so we're off to the races once those plants open up as far as getting some asphalt down to cover up some potholes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dobler. Councilwoman Nager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to go ahead. Mr. Copley does do a great job. I want to go ahead and thank him. I also want to thank just the Public Works Department, and I also want to thank the Utilities Department. Our other departments are doing great too, but we've been focusing a lot this meeting on Public Works and Utilities, and those departments are continuing to rise to the occasion and really listen to the concerns that we're bringing forward. So I just appreciate the work that they are doing, working with the citizens, working with the city manager, and working with the governing body. Also, big thanks to our city manager. That's all I have for tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Duncan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 quick things. You won't hear me talk about this again because even though they're directly connected, I don't think they should be mixed sitting here tonight and when we rerun for office out in the world. But I got asked about it because I did. I have filed for re-election, so I will once again be asking the citizens of Topeka in my district to give me the honor of continuing to serve the district that I grew up and was raised in. So since I've been asked, I thought I would at least put it out there tonight in this meeting. The second thing is, and I've posted this on my social media accounts, and I know it's also in the city manager's weekly report, but Topeka Police Sergeant Matt Rose went on the Rescue Mission Ministries has a podcast, and he did a very good job of outlining all of our outreach services, our behavioral health unit, our crisis intervention homeless outreach programs, and giving a pretty good explanation of what he and those folks actually do on a regular basis. And I would encourage everyone, like I said, it's in the link to that podcast is on my social media accounts in the City Manager's Weekly Report. Give it a listen because, yes, we all realize we need to do more and put more resources into those programs, but what we do is unique to the state of Kansas compared to a lot of other cities, and they do a lot of work. So I think if people have an opportunity to listen to that, it'll give them some more insight into the work being done. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hiller.
Thank you, Mayor. First, the weather report's a little scary sounding, but everybody have a great time. Topeka's St. Patrick's Day celebrations are always a lot of fun, and so watch for that and be safe and have fun. Coming up this coming Saturday. Also, just sort of a heads up, Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala and I have been working with some fabulous staff teams to get things going because the mowing season is coming up, not just the asphalt season. And so we're looking forward to engaging the community. It's already possible so this is sort of in advance. We'll have more of a notice next week, I think. But it's already possible for people to give a call to the office and sign up and say they'd like to volunteer to help with neighbors or others in the community to help mowing. Certainly for individuals to start thinking about what plans they've got and whether they can take care of themselves or whether they need to find out what resources are available in the community. We already have scheduled 3 sessions for the public to come and find out more, and there will be some giveaways as well, if we get it all worked out, even lawnmowers, for those who attend. And just again, a preview on that schedule is Thursday, March the 30th at Central Park Community Center. Monday, April 3rd, 11:30, so during the daytime, for daytime folks, at Hillcrest Community Center. And Monday, the 10th of April at 5:30 in Spanish at the Salvation Army. So stay tuned for that. Gretchen or Taylor, are either of those going to be virtual if people wanted to dial in instead of arrive? Do we know yet? Don't know yet. Okay. Okay. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 things. One, to piggyback off of what Councilwoman Hiller said, a lot of information is going to be coming out about the 2nd season of Changing Our Culture of Property Maintenance. And I do hope too that district representatives in 3 and 4 districts have been receiving information that I did request would be passed on to you all, so you are all up and aware of what's going on, along with any other district that would want that information that has neighborhood improvement associations. Neighborhood improvement associations, CAC, individual folks that want to volunteer that are listening now, know that we need you. We need you for this 2nd year of this 5-year initiative to help make this program successful. And I know that we can do it because I know that the commitment and love for community is out there. On the second part of what I want to talk about in the announcement, it is going to be dealing directly with issues of the chronically and kind of wandering about mentally ill and the chronic unsheltered that again raise its head in a very troubling way in District 2. Since 2020, when I first came into office, 2 months after I took the chair, I was dealing with an issue of a chronically mentally ill, abusive, felon, drug taking, I do believe schizophrenic individual that had been harassing a section of the Oakland area for 10 years before I took office. Through a number of meetings, pleas, pushing, begging, getting people together, that situation has been resolved as of the later part of 2020. There is additional issues that we are dealing with in Oakland and North Topeka with one individual that escalated this week. And it's because of this and because of the extreme frustration of the lack of understanding of how this system works, and to me, an increasing realization that many times it does not work, that the citizens of Oakland, along with myself, are calling for a special meeting to deal with what they believe is a feeling of uncertainty, lack of quality of life, lack of public health and safety, with a couple, not all, a couple of chronically mentally ill individuals that have for at least 4 years been harassing our neighborhoods. It came to this point because of the differing answers I get, because of not being able to find any resolution to these issues. So we are calling a meeting forth on March 29th at CRC Lundgren, located at 1020 Northeast Forest at 6 p.m. And my colleagues, I'm certainly inviting you if you want to hear some of this. I've invited to attend the city manager, the fire chief, the police chief, and Chief Willis, I hope that you will have someone come and attend since you cannot be present. I hope also that when you can help me understand what it means when you say that this incident has been emailed to the community, to the CBO. I think that is community-based operations. And what exactly does that mean? What's going to happen so that I can relay that to my constituents? Additionally, also, District Attorney Kagay and Shawnee County Commissioner Kevin Cook have all been invited to attend, along with all media outlets. I've been informed by the city attorney that they, being the city, are doing all they can to enforce extra efforts. But when it comes to things such as involuntary commitment, that is the realm of the district attorney. I will also say that this week, this emergency meeting of sorts, there's an emergency meeting of sorts that's being called in the North Topeka area because of what social service agencies and some folks in the area believed is an increased risk for fires due to the unsheltered, not only to those unsheltered, but to people that live and do business in this area of North Topeka. So I guess by extension, what I want to remind people, social service agencies, my colleagues, constituents, the mission, whoever it is that is supposed to be collaborating together on this, is that neighborhoods of District 2 are not dumping grounds. Their homes are not kindling wood for fires that continue to ravage the area. The neighborhoods are not places where higher numbers of the unsheltered and the chronically and wandering mentally ill can hover and gather until we figure out what is going to be done about this crisis that is increasing. And I'm trying not to sound angry about it, but I'm extraordinarily frustrated when you hear the level of discord that you do in the neighborhoods that I serve, where people are afraid to let their grandchildren out, their children out. They are afraid that either law enforcement or neighbors are going to run into one of these individuals jumping into the middle of the street that goes in and steals at the stores and runs out, that he is also referred to sometimes by law enforcement, oh, that's just blankety blank. He's not going to do anything. Well, you know what? People think that something is going to happen and it's not going to be good. He trespasses. He peeks into windows. He defecates in the quick shop, in the sink. That's what we're dealing with over here. And these are law-abiding citizens, tax-paying citizens that are having to beg for help and to be listened to. And so that's what this meeting is going to be about. It's not going to be about me talking. It's going to be about the 30 or 40 or 50 people, I hope, that are there that said they will come to talk about what they have to continue to endure in this district. And there has to be some kind of remedy, because until there's some kind of remedy, I'm going to be hooting and hollering about this until I'm no longer in this seat. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your passion. I think a number of your colleagues understand the frustration because it's something that has been with this city for decades. And it intensified years ago when we eliminated some of the resources for mental health care in the city of Topeka. So thank you. Councilwoman Ortiz.
Thank you. Christina, you said that some information should be sent to us regarding changing the culture. I'm not sure that I received that, so if you can make sure that they resend it or send it again. I don't think I've received it. So, wanted to say that. To Braxton's always been my main man. Braxton, we have sidewalks on California from I-70 to 10th Street. And my people are so happy, Braxton. So I want to, the second week in a row, I want to say thank you to you and your team. Got a chance to go out and ride the train. The train is near and dear to my heart with all the grandkids. It was snowing, it was cold, but we rode around for the first time and was happy to get back home. So I wanted to mention that. Thank the mayor for pushing me into the ribbon cutting picture because I wasn't going to go. I also wanted to congratulate the Highland Park High School boys. Don't tell Mr. Emerson this, that I'm making this for placing third. It was awesome to see them at state. And also congratulate the Washburn Road girls for placing second. They lost by 1, and that was just unbelievable to see that. So the last thing is I will put that meeting down on the 29th, but to the city attorney, I'm sure she'll shoot me if I'm wrong. Does that have to be noticed up for more than 3 council members to be there? You can let me know.
The open meetings law is the majority of the body, which would be more than 6. Well, 6, if 6 of you are there.
Okay, so how will we know if 6 of us is going to be there?
I can work on that. I'll get with Brenda and we'll figure something out.
Okay. I didn't mean to throw more work at you, but you know, hey, that's the thing. Again, to the city manager, I want to thank him for meeting with me and answering questions and listening to my brain spin when we get to talking numbers. And believe it or not, Neil, I bought up the pilot. So I'm looking forward. And Steve can tell you I did, didn't I, Steve?
Yes, ma'am.
And I wanted to know why in the heck can't we use that? So
Yes, ma'am.
anyway, I'm looking forward to see what his answer is going to be because I know what he told me in our meeting. And okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to bring your attention to a couple of activities. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Kell.
Since you heard the sports from Sylvia, you skipped
got
right
you,
over me. I just wanted to bring up, as Councilwoman Valdivia Alcalá, and I believe Councilwoman Hiller also brought it up, was NIAs. They're great for Topeka. It's a great way for neighbors to get together, discuss the issues that are happening in those neighborhoods, and trying to resolve things even before they bring it to the city. They might even try to find ideas to resolve it themselves. They're great organizations that can help make us aware of situations that are happening in neighborhoods that we may not directly know about because they may be in our district, but not in our direct neighborhood because our district spans several different neighborhoods. So you can learn more information by going to the City Manager tab of the city website under Neighborhood Association information, and you can find out about the neighborhood associations, neighborhood improvement associations, and a few other things there. And as our weather turns more to the better side of things here after this next week, since things kind of dip down a little bit, remember to, if you're organizing an event, a part of an event, things like that, go to CJ, go to KS&T, WWW, visit Topeka, add those things to the calendars. Let people know in Topeka what's going on. There's several Facebook pages out there like that also, but I hear so many times, and I've said it several times myself, I had no idea that was going on. I would have gone to that. So please get out there, let everyone know what you're doing through those avenues. I know the media, usually you can add that for free, no charge, and it just may have to be approved through their approval process. But it allows everyone to know what's going on, gets free publicity for your events, and may even draw the media out to your events by being on their calendar. So please make sure you're sharing everything and supporting and getting out and supporting our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to bring up a couple things real quickly. This weekend is the annual Blarney Breakfast at Blind Tiger. I would encourage as many people as possible to stop by. I think it starts at 7 o'clock. There'll be some celebrity servers there, so it's a good cause. It's a lot of fun, and it's very quick. They get you in, get you out, get you served, and so you can spend some time in there visiting with friends. I encourage you all to participate. As well, on the same day, we're going to have the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I'm surprised Councilwoman Hiller didn't mention whether or not you're going to be in the parade this year. Usually you're in there every year.
I was going to double check and make sure somebody was carrying the banner, and then I thought I'd check on the side.
But the parade starts at noon. It'll start at 4th and Kansas, and I know that the weather might be real iffy for this Saturday, but if you can, and you can bundle up, participate and enjoy the holiday. One other thing I wanted to mention is it is tax time, and I wanted to remind people that VITA is continuing to provide free tax help for those who need it, and they provide this service between all the way from now until April, it looks like the 15th, and there's a phone number you can call to get information about it. It's 785-207-9427. 785-207-9427. It's a free service. It helps out. Sorry.
She had the card.
She had the card. But I remember my father doing that. He did that until he was in the early 80s. He was still providing help for people to get their taxes done. It's something that he enjoyed doing. He really enjoyed helping people. It's convenient, so take advantage of that opportunity. And I hope that you have a good weekend and stay warm as much as you can. If there's no need for an executive session, am I correct, Madam Clerk? Correct? Okay. So there being no further business to come before this body, the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for watching tonight's City Council meeting. A recording of the meeting will replay at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. All of our recorded council and committee meetings from this week will replay starting at 9 every Saturday and Sunday morning. You can find all of our video content on the City of Topeka's YouTube page.